Hold on a second. I'm going to mute my audio for a second because I realize I'm working on something. I need to move my mic. Hold on. Hold on. I'm here. Muting. Sorry about that. Hopefully you can hear me. Ridiculous. What's happening? It's Wednesday. What's the date? 18th? I think it's the 18th. I'm actually kind of in the middle of doing a VO over some footage of the final lighting setup for the production in Seattle. I've shot the intro, outro part, and we may only go for about a half hour, 40 minutes today, because one of the things I try to do, especially when I've been out of town, is my wife and I kind of, it's like a divide and conquer. So I'm going to go pick up the boy. I've already prepped dinner, which is, by the way, again, a stew, because there was some stew meat in the fridge. So why not? I had carrots, onions, garlic, thyme, Italian parsley. It's always Italian parsley, by the way. It's not curly parsley. That's crap. No flavor. And there you go. Oh, wait. No, you can hear me, right? You can hear me, right? I see you standing by. That must have been from a while ago. I hope so. Yes. What's up, Colin? DJ? Brandon? Thaddeus? The normal cast of characters over here. Okay. I see the Guinness stew thing, so you can hear me. I'll tell you how I'm doing that. Then we'll jump into some stuff. As I said, it's not going to be a full hour. I got to go get the boy, and it's just, that's the way it goes. And I have to finish this episode before I do that for tomorrow. And then tomorrow I have to figure out what Friday's episode is going to be. And I say it in the intro of the Daily Drop, but basically yesterday, 7:30 a.m. call. And then when we were wrapped, loaded out, went to go eat, I was supposed to stop at a hotel about halfway down. I called them. And I'm like, I have some equipment, not my core stuff. That's always going in the room. But I'm talking about grip and stuff. Is it safe to park there? And they said, oh, we've had a couple of break-ins. So I decided to just barrel on through and drive the 4.5 hours home. So I'm here, but there you go. All right, Guinness stew, my way. It changes a little bit, but first thing is room temperature. This is already like it was a special, so the beef was already cut up. But usually, what I'll do is I'll just get a chuck and I'll cut it up into big pieces. Get some fat on there. It's going to cook down, all that fun stuff. Room temp, dry it. Salt, pepper, maybe a little flour. You could do cornstarch. It's just something to get a little bit of crust on the bottom of the pan. Little olive oil. You kind of cook them. I don't always do all sides. Sometimes I'll do like one side and then just sort of toss it around a little. But salt, pepper, that go in, take it out, do it in batches. And then already prepped mise en place. You're going to do a yellow or a sweet onion. East Coast would be Vidalia. West Coast Walla Walla. Or just a yellow onion would be fine. That's what I use today. Carrots. This is all diced. Celery. And then prepped, sort of tied off, a big thing of Italian parsley and thyme together. And you got to have some basil. Wow, I am tired. That thing you put in at the end into any stew. Why am I going blank? Come on, DJ, tell me what it is. There will be time for questions. But then the beef goes in, you got a little crust, and you got to go ahead and deglaze essentially with the carrots, the onions, the celery, smashed garlic, and that goes in there. Usually I put a little water in there, cook it down, reduce. A little bit of tomato paste, stir that in. Also let that get all bay leaves. Thank you. Unbelievable. And then you just like get that all lovely going together, and get that tomato paste doing its thing. And then I usually put the meat back in, stir that up a little bit, and then it's usually a can of Guinness, beef stock, and then the thyme and the parsley goes in with the bay leaves, and then bring it to a boil. And then I usually, in like a little Dutch oven pot, put that into the oven, let that cook on a high heat. Because it's cast iron inside of there, enameled, cook it for about an hour. Just turn the oven off. Done. Just let it sit there, and that's when I put the carrots in. Carrots just sort of sit in there, and then as a finish, in the last half hour, 20 minutes to bring up the heat, that's when the mushrooms go in. Make some extra, gravy for what you want. For the mashed potatoes, I'm going to make a baked potato for myself. My son's a mashed potato fanatic. When you make the mashed potatoes, you cook up the potatoes and put whole or half cloves of garlic in there, and boil that with the potatoes. So when you strain it, you get that nice mellow garlic flavor when you're mashing with, for me, usually butter, salt, pepper, and then sometimes at the end, just a little sour cream, full fat, or a little creme fraiche, like tablespoon. It just kind of takes it to another place. I do have a ricer, for potatoes. I do that occasionally, but I'm not usually into the super smooth. But I don't leave the skins on. All right, that's enough of that. I'm done. I'm done with that. All right. DJ says, if there's time for questions, what was the sanitizing of flash cards you were talking about with the OWC media? Okay, so they have this thing. It's called Energize. It's free software. I still haven't tried it yet. But basically, the thing about flash media is, spinning platters, while they have a relatively high failure rate, in some ways are better for rewriting, like formatting, rewriting over and over again. And at a certain point in time, those zeros and ones are going to be a problem with whatever storage you have. So my understanding is what the Energize software does is it essentially, I don't think it's limitless for forever. You'd have to read on OWC, but essentially it just like, it does more than a reformat. It just sort of, cleans everything off, sanitize. And I actually have a meeting with them on Friday, so I'm going to talk to them a little bit more about the Energize stuff and try to get a sense of what that is and the deal. But it's really their software to use with their cards, and I guess there's something they've done to make those things communicate with each other. Also really interesting is that their previous gen CF Express 4.0 cards, CF Express Type B cards, which were the 2.0 cards. These are the new ones, are the 4.0. You can actually upgrade speed-wise to have the same performance as the new cards. That's not all of their cards, but it's certain storage capacity versions. So I like OWC. I think they're doing some great stuff, and I've been buying their stuff for a long time, and I bought many, many thousands upon thousands of dollars worth of stuff. So they reached out to me, and I've talked to them at trade shows and stuff. So hopefully that relationship will continue, because there's really no conflict of interest for me when it comes to OWC. It's it gets a little bit different with the camera companies. I want to be Switzerland, but because that's essentially what I'm using, except for occasionally picking up, a sale batch of drives that I can use to just do some backups. OWC is what I'm using. All right. Good. Let's see. Oh man. Yeah, so I love beer, but I can't really drink very much of it. It doesn't love me very much anymore. So if it's Asian food, there's just, I can't resist. I'm usually drinking lager with that. And that's across the board. So that's Chinese, that's Thai, that's Korean, that's Vietnamese, that's Indian food. Like a lager with that, light lager is the way to go. F the IPAs when it comes to that type of food. And, I like a good IPA every once in a while. I'm in the Pacific Northwest. You can't even go into the supermarket and get Asian beer, which is ridiculous. You have to go to a specialty place. But when it comes to just drinking beer and really liking it and it not doing too much to me, that's not good. Read gas, bloating, all that fun stuff. It's really porters and stouts for me. So I have a high affinity for those types. So it's all good stuff. All right. Can I talk about my backup archiving process? Well, it's different depending on what I'm doing. I mean, if we're doing a long-term project for a client, it's very regimented. With the stuff I'm doing for the daily drop, I'm just backing up to SSDs. I like to keep 2 copies of everything. I think I'm going to have to start going to a RAID for the daily drop just for redundancy. But, you know, even RAIDs are not completely reliable. And I've not heard, we've had horror stories with RAIDs in the past. So, yeah, it just depends on the project. The one thing for me is when we're doing production, it's always we're dumping to at least 2 drives if we can, and usually now with the cost of media, we're leaving stuff on there until everything's back to where it needs to be, meaning the drives are where they need to go, travel wise, and stuff is backed up locally there. But it's always going to 2 drives for my productions, for redundancy. Ideally, at the end of the day, if the crew is big enough, 1 drive's going with one's going with somebody else. In an ideal world, not to the same location, but that's sort of impossible when you've got a crew staying at a hotel. But if I'm going somewhere out of town to a production and there's somebody on the crew that's not staying at the hotel, they're working as a local, and there's somebody who might be the person who's a second camera operator, this and that, and we've backed it up, it could go with them. And the same with travel. You don't really want the one person to be traveling with both the master and the backup drive. Now, if something catastrophic happens, I think you've got more to worry about than that media. But I always say, as I said in the episode for the OWC stuff, that all of your money that is spent in terms of your production is really sitting on cards or on flash storage or SSDs or whatever it is. And that includes all of the money that's been spent leading up to your production, because it ultimately winds up on those cards and then on hard drives. So if those aren't reliable, and nothing's 100% reliable, but those aren't reliable, then you're kind of screwed. It's another reason why I'm a huge fan of camera systems that have a double slot or dual slot recording, because media is relatively inexpensive nowadays. And if I can put 2 cards into a camera and I can record the same data to both of those cards and have enough to last through a production day, then that's much better peace of mind. And then again, maybe just pulling one of those cards and backing up and then using Hedge, which has been rebranded as something else, or ShotPut Pro, or whatever you're going to use, and then you're basically backing up to at least 2 drives with checksum verification, so on and so forth. And then when you get back to your studio or it gets sent to the client, hopefully they're now uploading that to a RAID. A lot of people now are on a cloud-based workflow. I know one of my clients I do work for, the one that I just finished this job in Seattle for, he basically will offload and then he'll push to the cloud right then and there. Yeah. Okay. Can you tell us about YouTube Shorts and Facebook 9x16 stuff you're doing for the daily drop, and how that's working for me, I think you said. Are there any good marketing tools for your I have no idea, to be honest with you, Colin. I'm kind of terrible at that stuff. Really, if I could, and I really should, I should do a promo for every daily episode that I do for the daily drop. And I'm trying to do that, but the reality is, like, yesterday I actually had a promo cut and ready to go. But I had to sleep and then I woke up and I had to go directly to breakfast, go directly to the stage, and then from there directly to get something to eat after loading out, and then driving 4.5 hours home. I didn't get back till 10:30. So pushing the promo out at that point didn't make sense. If it was a weekly series, it might. But really, I do try to shoot a promo and then push it to all the places. So it goes to Twitter, X. I don't know why. Interestingly, now you really see no reposts on, I'm just going to call it Twitter. But I also push to my 2 Facebook pages. One is quote unquote personal, but it's also just for business. And then the other one is the C47. And then I push to LinkedIn, I push to Threads, and I push to Instagram. And that's basically where the little promos go. And I just say, go to the, to the channel, to the playlist. And I'm linking to the playlist now because I figure if somebody sees it later on, they can go find that episode. It won't be that far away, or they might decide to watch the daily episode. I do see that when I do the social part, it seems to be that the numbers are slightly higher. We're not, it's like not incredible views, but then I'll hit a topic or a subject that people are looking for, and then I'll see a lot more views. And I mentioned this, that Bye Bye FX30 one. I guess it is seemingly kind of like a clickbaity title, not on purpose. Though if I could do it and I could figure it out, I wouldn't be 100% opposed to it if it got some more eyeballs to watch the episodes. But I don't want people to have an unrealistic expectation of what the content is that I'm creating anyway, because it's always, the goal is education. So it's a long answer with not a lot of information to your question, Colin, which is I have no effing clue. I'm trying to figure it out, and who knows what those algorithms are, but I will try to continue to do them daily if I can. There's just the realities of, making sure that I get an episode out every day, trying to make sure that those episodes have real educational value. And yeah. Okay. Here we go. How are we doing time-wise? Yeah, we'll go at least another 15. I'm watching. Yes, I agree with you, DJ. Hopefully it's okay that I call you DJ. But it's more fun to say Succotash. I need to know the background on that one day. Yes, so, you need a data wrangler. You don't have to have a DIT on these projects, but it's really important that that job is done by somebody who understands that that's the job, meaning that's the whole production sitting on those cards. So, so for me, it's usually somebody who's in the camera assistant AC role. When you're on smaller productions, we're wearing more than one hat. So normally the DP is also the first camera operator. You might have a second camera operator who you're hiring that also has some, camera assistant background. And that's a good candidate. But one thing I would recommend is when you're hiring that person, while, certain, sort of categories of crewing should be making in my opinion, about the same or the same amount of money every day. If somebody's going to have that role where they're data wrangling, they're probably not doing it on set. So they're going to head back to the hotel or home. They're going to have to start offloading that, and they're going to have to make sure that it's right. So make sure you have a little bit of extra in the budget for the fact that they're going to be working extra on those days during the production. I think that's important. All right. Colin says, I definitely see the promos on social media, and it seems like a great marketing method. I am guessing it's a bunch more work, though. It's not a lot more work. I mean, what you have to do is, for instance, I could just shoot them on my phone. Sound quality wouldn't be as good, but maybe that organicness would be good. Somebody in my company, the other half of this company, says, you should do it that way. And I did shoot a little thing. It may or may not work for tomorrow's episode at the soundstage. It's just really quick. But you have to reset. So if I'm shooting here and this is my episode, then what I've got to do is either, right there on that tripod, or switch it over to a different tripod, which is what I normally do. I set up a 9x16 as opposed to a 16x9 shot, and then I shoot a little promo, and then that just gets offloaded along with the episode itself. And yeah. All right, Shoji Productions. When shooting indoor interviews, what is your go-to mic and why? Well, that's kind of that's not a loaded question, but it's not a one size fits all answer. So I'll tell you the mics I'm using. I mean, I'd love to own a Sheps mic. I've used them and tested them. I'm not a sound recorder, so please take this with a grain of salt. But you have boomed microphones that have different pickup patterns and called polar patterns. And while we call a lot of microphones shotgun mics, shotgun pickup is very, very narrow, but it also has a tail on the back end. I don't have a mic sitting here, but you've got your main pickup here, and then you've got the back of the mic, and there's a tail, and depending on the polar pattern, you may have a lot of pickup or very little pickup. It may be very narrow, maybe wider at the back of the microphone, which is why certain polar patterns might be a little bit better for a like an on-camera mic or a boom mic than others. But essentially, most microphones are super or hyper cardioid that we call shotgun mics. And they're slightly different in terms of the pickup in the front. And also, like for instance, that true shotgun pattern has also pickups. I don't know if they call them wings or whatever they call them, but they do pick up from the sides a little bit as well. But what you want to do is you want to find a mic that's appropriate to your location. So, in here, I'm using an NTG5. It works really well for this type of environment. I'm pushing it to a mix pre 6.2, and depending on what I'm doing, I might use a noise assist plugin to just sort of level out and make sure I don't have a lot of ambient noise in the recordings. But most of the post tools are pretty good now at a dialogue denoise or a voice isolation and those types of things. On the production we just did, they weren't my microphones, but we had two matching MKH 416s. Sennheiser has a number of other, like the MKH50. I believe the other one is the 8060. These are all great shotgun microphones that are used in production all of the time. Sometimes what I'll do is I'll use a cardioid mic in terms of the polar pattern. And what's interesting about a cardioid mic is while it's not as narrow coming out of the front of the microphone in terms of being like a hyper or a super cardioid, it's a wider pickup. There's virtually no tail pickup from the back of the microphone. So it works really well sometimes. And the NT55 from Rode is a good example of that. It works really well if you've got two people who are in close proximity, almost knee to knee. If you need to do a single boom for an interview, because it's got a wider pickup there. It's also a good mic indoors because, or that polar pattern, a cardioid polar pattern, because of that less of a tail in terms of pickup. So if you've got HVAC systems and things like that, if there's noise coming from basically behind the microphone, then you're going to be picking up a lot less of that. So, there's a lot of mics out there, but Sennheiser is a great way to go. I do like the Rode NTG5. and then there's a lot of other ones. There was a new one that just got, what is it called? The 1970 something. It's on News Shooter's website. You can check it out. That's a company that's been making mics for a long time, so you can see what that's all it is. So maybe not a complete answer for you, Shoji Productions, but at least gets you sort of started on that. But real sound recorders have many mics in their kit, both lavalier and mics that they boom. There you go. DJ says, I already loved Set a Light, and then I accidentally hit the export button and found out it does that whole top view. Yes, it does. It's super cool. Cameras, a lighting map. I was shocked. So I so wish I had that software when I can't read the rest. Oh, mapping concert shoots. Got it. Split. Yeah, it's a pretty great application if you haven't checked it out. And they've been kind enough to, I bought it years ago, and I use it educationally and for setting things up. But it's there's, if you use the C47, you can get 20% off. So that's pretty cool. David says, hey, David, we got my first time directing narrative short, Dead Tone, in the Rocket City Film Festival. Awesome. I love, David, that you are just going for it and that you haven't stopped. It's been years now, and you are really getting into all of this stuff heavily, which I think is pretty awesome. And I'm curious if that's what you do full time now, or you have a day gig. But it's great to hear these types of stories and input and feedback, and that people are doing things. I love that kind of stuff. So there you go. And if I sound a little odd, it's that time of year where I generally get the sinus thing hitting me. It lasts for about a week or so, and then I become a human being again, usually with the weather changing, which it has here in Oregon and the Pacific Northwest. So what are you going to do? That's life. You just keep going on and get the job done. All right, so I can go now probably for another 5-10 minutes. I apologize I can't do a whole hour, but I'm going to throw it out there for any other questions that people have about stuff. I will do another one next week unless a production comes up. So please let me know if there's another topic, because what I want to do is I want to jump over here and just get my episode done so that I can have that ready and scheduled for tomorrow. Just as a note for the people who are here for the live stream, the episodes generally, unless I'm like, I couldn't talk about the OWC thing. It was embargoed until a particular time on a particular date. I made a mistake. It went up the day before, and then I pulled it, and I told them, and they were fine about it. So, I think being transparent is really the way to go. But generally now I'm scheduling my episodes to go up at 12:30 a.m. Pacific time, 3:30 a.m. Eastern. And the reason I do that is, why not? And if somebody is in Europe or somewhere else in the world, it's there in the morning. So, think about, for me, the UK is 8 hours ahead, places in Europe 9 hours ahead. So when that goes up at 12:30 a.m. here, it's, 8:30, 9:30 in the morning already over there. Yeah, I would love that. Send it to me, David. I'd love to check it out. 100%. So what else we got? Last 5 minutes or so. Again, I'm sorry I can't go longer today, but we'll have an episode next week. And don't forget that November, what is it? Is it November 1st? Is Camera Flask again. And it's just going to be really everybody coming in, and we're going to just interact with the chat and do that kind of stuff. The eBay Cinema Camera Challenge was really fun. We had a great time. That hour just flew by for all of us, and some of the stuff that people submitted was just really, really fun. So I'd love to do more of those. It'd be really great if, like, every other or every third Camera Flask was a challenge or something that people were doing creatively. we can do some of that stuff for the regular live streams as well, but it's a little hard to manage with the daily series now, and then also doing something myself. But it was really, really fun to do that. So I really appreciate everybody who participated, both in terms of actually sending in a challenge and kind of coming up with something for that 20K, but everybody else who also showed up. And that's what makes it so fun when we do the Cameron challenge. Cameron challenge. Maybe that's what it should be called. Camera Flask. I always say doing things in a vacuum is, so what's the point? I'm not actually the type of person who's tuned to be someone who does social media. It's just, I don't come from that. That's not how I'm wired. Which is why I don't sit there on Facebook, interacting with people all the time. To me, it's a sort of like, it's a vehicle to share information, but not my personal daily, life. It's just about this kind of stuff. So both for live streams and for feedback on the daily drop, it's when you, like Brandon, you're a big one when it comes to that, DJ. It's when you're letting me know that you either learn something or you drop a little piece of knowledge yourself and all of that kind of stuff. It really helps. It's like, I don't want to be in a vacuum. If I'm going to spend the time doing it, it's really nice. I don't need any validation of that was you're awesome, this and that. It's more about understanding that it has value, that you're learning something, or that it's interesting. And I know that not every episode will be interesting to everybody, but if you come away with, something from one of every X number of episodes that you can then turn around and use in your work, your productions, then I'm winning. That's a great thing. All right, Brandon, what we got here? Use the FX6 over the weekend. First time using a Cine cam, so it was a little difficult with the operating translation from a hybrid cam to Cine. Not sure if I can justify FX6 over A7S3 for myself. Yeah, I mean, it's definitely a change. It goes both ways. And when you're used to using a tool, it's almost like a memory muscle thing. So I'm not talking you into using an FX6, but I guarantee if you are used to using cameras continuously, if you were using a camera like an FX6 or C70 or C300 Mark III or an FX9 or whatever it's going to be, an Arri Alexa, the Blackmagic pocket camera, at a certain point, your memory muscle starts to kick in, both for where things are in the menu system and how you get to things in your workflow. And you just got to find the tools that work well for you. But great image quality out of it. And yeah, there you go. Thank you. Yeah, I had a really good time doing the beadboard episodes. Going and building them, and then at least creating an episode where it was being put into practical use. Theory is BS unless you actually can use it. You've got to learn something for application. I'm a big believer in that, and I always will be. So there you go. All right, kids, I think what I got to do is reset here. I've got to get the core of tomorrow's episode finished, and then I got to clean that all up and export it, upload it, do the YouTube's thing. And I think that's the deal. Yes, and I agree with you. The Blackmagic sort of UI, once they kind of figured it all out, is great. And I love actually Blackmagic's menu systems. The ergonomics of their cameras, that's another discussion. But there you go. That's what I got from you. From me, for you, all that stuff. Thank you. Not a big edit. I just got to sound like I am making sense. I appreciate everybody coming to the live streams. Tell your friends about that channel, and I appreciate it all around. I'll see you next week on the live stream. All the best. Take care.